Hello and welcome in my kitchen. For this new video I'm making late because I took some holidays and then I came back to work and I was flooded by a massive amount of paperwork and I haven't been able to do anything but work lately. So I had decided to shoot a very short video about a nice little computer, and my plans are going to the gutter because the computer I intended to showcase today has decided to die. This computer was the famous Compaq Aero 433C. It was the first subnotebook, well, at least in Europe. So this computer, I have it here, so I'm going to show it anyway, even if it's just shut off. Well, I can shut it on, but I can turn it on, but it won't show much. What was nice about this computer is that everything needed in the days was packaged inside. So you had this was an extended model, so you had 8 megabytes of memory. Basics were 4 megabytes. This one's got 170 megabytes of disk when the bloody thing decides to work. Almost a full keyboard, and it had don't know the name. It's a trackpad. It had a trackpad, and with the buttons sneakily placed on the side, which was very handy because you could have your thumb on the trackpad and your pointing finger on the buttons. Very nice, very useful, very thought out. It had a PCMCIA Type 2 port, so you could connect it to a network, for instance, but the main use of this PCMCIA was Compaq branded diskette drive, which was plugged into this port with a dedicated card. As you see, the diskette drive connects with its own card, and the card is attached permanently to the drive itself. Not the most efficiently ergonomic setup I've ever seen, but well, it sort of does the job. And you see the card plugs on the top of the drive for storage. So very small form factor. And you had everything you might have wanted in the days: power, parallel port, serial port on the right, and expansion port in the middle. Early 90s. And it was an expensive machine, tailored to the needs of high-end executives. Well, it was not a toy machine. I thought it was cute, and it's early 90s design at its best, with very rounded lines and a big Compaq logo and the day Compaq still meant something in computing. So overall a nice machine. So, nice machine, and a machine I won't be able to speak about until I try to see what's going on. So instead I'm changing my plans, and I will speak of something that's not really old and rather newer than I would have wished, but still it was market defining when it came out, and I chose this as a replacement because I have a fondness for Subnotebooks, and I have a couple of them. So this is the original Asus 701 EEE, did I miss one? E PC. And this was a revolution, and a real revolution, not an Apple one. So why a revolution? Because when it came out, the only contender on the market for the Subnotebook form factor was, to my knowledge, the Dell XPS, and the Dell XPS retailed at over €1,000, 1,200 maybe, something like that. It was a beautiful machine, very well made, expensive, a lot of memory, big disk, very desirable, but the price point was like the Compaq we've seen before. It was tailored to big executives in top 500 companies, and well, not an everyday computer or for the average Joe. This computer came out at €300. It was the least expensive PC you could have at the time. All sizes, form factors, capacity, everything considered, it was the least expensive. And it sold like fire, positively like fire. The capabilities were great for the price. It had a 900 MHz Celeron Intel processor inside. The batteries was good for a couple of hours. It had Wi-Fi, it had an SD card port, it had 3 USBs, it had a VGA connector, it had network attachment at, I don't remember, I think it might have been 10 megabytes per second, but I'm unsure, maybe 100 already, I don't know. And it had a provision for RTC modem, which was never used to my knowledge. So a great computer. The system was Linux, and it was one of the first major push to the market for Linux distribution. It put Linux literally in millions' hands. The screen was definitely the least impressive part of the machine. It was only 800 pixels by 600. The colors were great, but the size was very small, and already it was difficult to work with such small screen. It had a video camera for Skype. It was not good for anything else, but for Skype it was just plain okay. It had a full keyboard, and it had 4 GB of SSD. It was one of the first public SSD, a small one, tiny one. Half of it was eaten by Linux already, so very little storage for the user, but again not really a problem. You could attach it to a network, you could access internet with Wi-Fi, or you could plug a SD card or a USB key. So it had everything you could wish, and it came so this one still has the original system, but I unlocked it to a power user mode where I have access to full KDE, which I think it's KDE 3, and it came originally in an easy mode, and the easy mode was icon based, and I will show it to you in a moment. As a long time Linux user, I was quite nonplussed by the easy interface, but I reckon it was certainly most useful for people who had never touched a computer before. So this is a plain old KDE 3, nothing more, nothing less. But I will show you the easy mode, which was the original mode the machine came with. Okay, and the switch is super quick. Well, for a computer of this age, it's super quick. There. So as you see, it was organized like a notebook, sorry. You had all that was used for internet was on the first page, and it was honestly the most useful part of the computer. Then you had work leaf with to use a word processor, a spreadsheet, to draw some presentation. You could read PDFs, and well, just useful. See how well it's OpenOffice 2.0. It's all vintage. I never did much with this computer. I bought it second-hand from someone who didn't know how to use it. I used it a couple of weeks, and I saw that it was exactly what I wanted, except for the screen. So I decided to buy the other model, which I will show you too, which had a bigger screen, because I'm dealing in my work. I was dealing at the time mostly with paper. I was doing paralegal work, and I was basically writing contracts and things like that. So I needed a word processor, and I wanted to be able to see what I was doing. So this one was a bit too small for that. But it was really what I wanted. So very nice computer. As you see, it's quite fast. And there was a dedicated leaflet for children to learn things. You had some multimedia capacities, very limited setup, and you could put your favorite applications there. So it had, well, it had some troubles of use, and it was eating through the battery even though it was turned off. And well, clearly there was a need for a better model, but this started really a revolution. It was the first machine for the general public that was easy to carry, where you could access the internet and do 80% of what you would do with a big computer, and you could do it in a very, very tiny form factor. This model was 2007, sorry, and what I finally used was the 2008 model, which was the 900A. The A stands for the Atom processor that's powering it. It's a 1.6 GHz processor. It's quite fast. It has twice the size of SSD, so it's more capacious. The screen is bigger. It's 124 point by 600, so it's not exactly SVGA, but still it's a real improvement. And I'm used to say that every time I've been using it professionally, I've charged my client the price of the machine, so I repaid for it tens of times. It can take a serious beating. You can drop it, you can do whatever you want. It just never stops, and it was inexpensive, it was scrappy, and somehow it was the best bang for money you could get at the time. And still today it's running the latest Manjaro. It's up to date as the date of yesterday. It's kernel Linux 4.7. It's KDE Plasma 5. And I use it, well, if not daily, almost. The only limit I see is it's got only 1 GB of memory, and it's too small for browsing internet today on the most taxing sites. Notably JavaScript gives it troubles, but otherwise it still does the job. And I still use it for the same tasks I intended to. So I'm writing text, I'm browsing the internet, I'm looking for my mails when I'm on holidays. It's got everything you may want, and it just won't stop. So just showing you, voila, there you are, LibreOffice 5, which is the latest revision, and it's even the fresh branch of the repository. So there you are. It's fast, it's perfectly usable, it's a very nice computer, and it's a 2008 computer, and well, if it were to break down, I would change it in a bit, by the same model. It just works. There is very little point in tearing this computer apart, because it's a fairly standard and modern architecture, and the motherboard and every aspect of it are very well integrated. The machine is uncomplicated. You have one big opening at the back, 2 screws, I'm not disassembling, I'm just showing the extension possibilities. As I said, there's no point in doing something else. So what you have here is 1 GB of memory. It can be upgraded to 2 GB, but you have to be very careful of the timings of the chip. I don't remember, but it's easy to find. The memory in that format is less easy to find. Today it may be even expensive to replace, so well, 1 gig is okay. And you can change the SSD too. It's an PCIe format card, so you just remove the screws and exchange the SSD. This is the original one. It's an 8 gigabyte SSD, but some people have put up more than 64 gigabyte with no adverse effect. So that's it, and I've seen too that some USB port unused are exposed on the motherboard, and for people who are handy with that kind of thing, you can for instance take a USB stick, a Bluetooth USB for instance, and you can hook it up inside and then have a USB extension in the machine to access Bluetooth capabilities. Again, I had no need for this, so I didn't do it. I kept it pretty much in its original condition, but the machine has potentialities. Right, that ends up the show of this machine. That was not intended to be my video for today, but I'll be back soon with a truly old computer